Hi everyone, and happy Halloween! Today's video will be a special doll based on one of my favorite ghost Pokemon, Chandelure. You may have seen Dollightful's custom dolls inspired by all of the evolutions. I absolutely love the idea of creating dolls based on Pokemon because they're so diverse and there are so many different ways to interpret their design to create a doll. So I guess you could say I was totally inspired to create some dolls based on my own favorite Pokemon. The first step was to come up with a concept sketch which would incorporate signature elements of the Pokemon's design. Then I found some fabrics, lace, and other details like beads which helped inspire more detail in my design. Then I took my base doll, a Fabelle Thorn from Ever After High, and removed all of her hair by putting her in hot water, removing the head, and scraping out the glue and hair from the neck hole. After removing the face paint with acetone nail polish remover, I planned out the reroute. Here I'm using my rerouting tool, which consists of an X-Acto knife handle and an embroidery needle. The eye of the needle is cut at an angle so that you can use it as a hook to scoop up the hair. Then you take the tip and insert it into each of the holes in the head. It's a little tedious, but hard to mess up, so it usually makes me feel pretty good. In order to make the doll's head resemble the flame coming out of the top of Chandelure's head, I decided to root the hairline with black hair, which I had left over from a Lizzie Hart's doll I customized, and create a ponytail in her hair which would look like the blue and purple flame. After I've rooted a couple layers around the hairline in black, I'm taking my blend of periwinkle and creating a ponytail. Instead of folding each piece of hair in half before inserting it, I'm varying the length so that my ponytail will have layers and will be thin at the tip, like a flame. I add a little bit of the vivid blue, and then voila! I just add some Fabri-Tac glue on the inside of the head to keep all of the hair in place permanently. And now it's time for the face-up. Unlike a lot of doll customizers, I avoid the toxic Mr. Super Clear by using Liquitex Matte Medium, a brush-on sealant. I use makeup sponges to apply the sealant, chalk pastels for the blushing, watercolor pencils for the outline of the facial features, a kneaded eraser for fixing mistakes, acrylic paints for most of the repaint, various brushes for blushing and detail work, and gloss for the lips. Other essentials include a quality pencil sharpener, a cup of water for diluting and cleaning brushes, and of course, my canvas, the doll's head. To seal the face, I take a few drops of the matte medium and dilute with water. Then I take half a makeup sponge and apply the mixture only to the parts of the face that I will need to draw on with pencil, such as the eyes and eyebrow areas, and the lips. This time I'm also applying some underneath the eyes because I want to draw some special decorative accents there. I let the medium dry for a few minutes, then apply it 2 to 3 more times to ensure a good surface for the materials to adhere to. Once it's dry, I take out my sketch for reference and start drawing on the eyes. I'm using a light purple pencil for the outline this time because it's close to the skin tone, so I'll be able to see it, but it will also be easier to erase or adjust later. When I'm happy with the lines, I go over and refine them with a sharp black pencil. Then I start drawing the flames I decided to add underneath her eye. On the other side, I'm adding black swirls reminiscent of the arms that branch out from Chandelure's body. Before I break out the paints, I'm going to do the blushing on her face. This is actually the first time I'm blushing with colors other than shades of pink and red. I'm using various shades of blue and purple this time to resemble the flames inside of Chandelure. The blues look good on her already purplish skin. When that's done, I start with the paints by filling in the eyes with white. Then I'm going to work on creating a yellow gradient in the eyes, which makes it look like the eyes are glowing. At first, her eyes just look like sunny side up eggs, but after I keep adding lighter and darker areas, they start to look like they have a bit of depth. The orangey undertone of the low lights really makes the eyes stand out against that purple-gray skin. I'm not adding any pupils this time because Chandelure just has those ghostly yellow eyes. Before moving on, I add some shading to the white parts of the eyes to make them look more three-dimensional. Now I'm going over my black outlines with black acrylic paint. It can be a little tough to do the eyelashes precisely, but having the guidelines there helps a lot. Now on to the flames. I'd never really painted flames before, so this was a kind of a trial and error thing. I just used mixtures of blues and purples until I liked how it looked. For her lips, I'm mixing my glittering metallic blue paint with black to get a deep glittery indigo color. Those black lines around her mouth make her look so scary. Definitely not my usual style, but I'm loving it. I add in some highlights with white pencil, and then the lights in her irises. And the face-up is finished. Again, this isn't quite my style, but I do think it's the best repaint I've done yet. And now to make the outfit. I start with my sketch, which as you'll see I end up adjusting quite a bit as the process goes along, and to make the pattern, some plastic wrap, masking tape, graph paper, a pencil, paper towel, scissors, and the doll body. To make a pattern, I wrap the plastic wrap around the doll's body, then cover it with masking tape that conforms to the contours of the body. Then with my pencil, I draw on where I want the clothing to be, as well as the seam lines. Then using small scissors, I cut off the pattern along the seam lines. Then I trace the masking tape piece onto graph paper to get a nice clean pattern. And it fits! I then trace my pieces onto my fabric and cut them out, leaving a seam allowance around the edges. I'm also going to glue on a bit of this fancy lace to the top of the bodice. For the skirt, I'm using this awesome glittery organza fabric, which is actually the same fabric I used on my Snow Queen Elsa doll. There is one layer of purple sandwiched between the two blue ones. I'm going to sew along the top and gather it to create a poofy skirt. Doesn't it look gorgeous gathered together like that? It's gotta be my most favorite fabric of all time. Next, I'm doing the same thing to my lace in order to gather it up before attaching it to the skirt. I was a little unsure about the closures, so this time I ended up just sewing the bodice and the skirt right onto the doll. For the sleeves, I changed my mind about making them long sleeves and instead made these cuffs with scraps of the shiny fabric along the edge to look like flames. For the swirls coming off her skirt, I glued wire in between two black ribbons so that I'd be able to bend and shape them into perfect swirls. After they dried, I attached them simply by bending them and inserting them into the skirt. For her shoes, I had a revelation when I remembered that Maddie Hatter's shoes have that gorgeous swirl heel. It would look perfect to match with the swirls on Chandelure. I painted them black and coated them with Mod Podge, and they were good to go. For finishing touches, I made this little crown for her ponytail out of craft foam. And I twisted this black chain around her. And attached a couple of these gorgeous light blue beads. What do you think? Does she capture the spirit of the ghost Pokemon Chandelure? If you'd like to see more of my custom doll projects, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for some big channel news coming up soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon!